Kairi's grandma knows way too damn much. Now I know you've heard this a number of times by now for years on end, but it's for a very good reason. Theories about Kairi's grandmother being a Keyblade wielder, whether that be a Dandelion or a descendant of the Dandelion Union leaders, or a descendant of Ava or Ava herself, or even one of Xehanor's classmates such as Vor, or maybe one of the upperclassmen. Regardless of which of these theories you believe, or if you believe none of them, it cannot be ignored that this woman simply knows way too much, more than she really should. And so if you're of the opinion that she's just a simple grandma who knows her history, in this video I'm going to give you the rundown on how unlikely that is. And also I'm going to dive deep into my thoughts on Ava's character, as well as give some points on why I'm certain Ava is indeed the traitor that the Book of Prophecies was referring to, and how that might tie into her current life. And I'll be doing all of this to justify why I currently am indeed a believer of the theory that Kairi's grandmother is most likely Ava. I'm not going to go into all the similarities between Kairi and Ava in terms of their design and especially their characteristics, but I will quickly point out the fact that the Latin word for grandma is literally Ava. It literally is evidence served on a platter. I mean, okay, technically it's Avia or Avia, but Ava is listed as one of the alternative spellings, so basically Ava counts. Now we know Nomura picks his names on purpose, and we know that her name is representative of a deadly sin, just like the other foretellers. Her name is short for Avaritia, which is Latin for greed. I don't really see her literally being greedy, and to be honest, I think their sins are more down to interpretation rather than being reflective of their actual characters. But anyway, her name on one hand means greed, but it also doubles as literally being grandmother. And I mean, guys, come on, the similarities between her and Kairi are ridiculous. And the same way many people thought Brain and Ericus were connected because of how blatantly they looked like each other, the same logic can apply here. It may seem obvious, but again, Brain and Ericus, that seemed obvious, but who knows, it could be classic Nomura misdirection. But there is a lot of reasons to think it's not. Now there are 3 instances that this woman has popped up, and in all 3 of those instances she speaks about this same story of the world being one before being split because of all the people who fought over the light. Now she's very clearly referring to the time during Kingdom Hearts Key, so not even Union, we're talking back in the Foreteller days, back in the Master of Masters days, and that quite simply is sketchy. Everything that occurred before the Dandelion leaders crossed over into the Unchanged Realm was forgotten about by everyone except the Union leaders. And of course, the Foretellers would remember it, but that's it. Now you could say, well, maybe the Union leaders just passed the story down. And that's not entirely impossible. In fact, it's actually quite plausible. But they did agree to not tell the truth to the Dandelions, and it was part of the rules given to them by Master Ava. And so far, we've seen that to be the case in Union. Now who knows, by the end of Union, Brain or whoever sets up Scarlet Kylum might decide to go against that rule because of how all the secrecy and misinformation ruined the old Keyblade wielders. So the knowledge could have been handed down, or it might not have been handed down. So you know what we're gonna do? Let's take a look at both of these possibilities. So if the knowledge from the time of Kingdom Hearts Key is passed down and everyone knows all about that era, well, Kairi's grandma aside, that means everyone would know about the Foretellers, the Master of Masters, and the Keyblade War. They'd also know about them crossing over into another world. Now we know Yen Sid knows something about the other world at least, which means other Keyblade wielders might do as well. But do they know about the Foretellers and the Master of Masters? Do they know about the world before Union? Well, if it turns out that the Scarlet founder or founders decide to pass down that knowledge, then yes, they could know. And let's not forget, Ericus says that the Keyblade War is the Master's favourite story, so that could indeed mean that it's a story that's told. Or it could mean something else, but I'll get to that in another video. But let's just say Master Odin may be older than he already looks. Now to them it might just be some story from a time from ages ago, so they don't think too much on it, and that's why it's never came up before. Because the natural question is, why don't they ever speak about that time? And most importantly, if they know all about that time, then why didn't Xehanort recognize or at least guess who the Master of Masters was? And as I've mentioned before, Xehanort is surprised Eraqus might know about the Lost Masters, so it can't be knowledge that's just openly spoken about, and Eraqus denied knowing about them, which further supports that, which means that whatever story their master has told them, it's not the whole story. But that's why Kairi's grandmother is very odd, because she doesn't just know the worlds were one, she also knew that Kingdom Hearts was in the realm of darkness. She knew that the door to light would be needed. She seems to just know things that even Ansem the Wise didn't know, and he's supposed to be the most knowledgeable person in Radiant Garden, especially on topics specifically like this. It is possible still that the knowledge was passed down to them, because even if you look at the sort of mural that's on the device from Remind in Scarlet Adkylum, you can see images on there that show how Daybreak Town became Scarlet Adkylum by breaking, which implies there must be some sort of history that is indeed passed down from the time of Daybreak Town. But again, that doesn't mean the whole story has been passed down. Also, it would mean that Kairi's grandmother knows about future events, because she said that the true light will return, and the true light she's referring to is of course Kingdom Hearts. So how could she not only know about these distant past events that everyone's supposed to have forgotten, but she also knows about future events? She's able to predict what would happen. How could that have been passed down by the Union leaders or the Ancient Masters or whoever? How could she have learnt that knowledge from a book even? Who would have written that book? Who would know about the true light returning? Again, it's not impossible. Maybe by the end of Union it'll make sense, but the point is, even if the knowledge was handed down, it's still knowledge only those tied to the Keyblade would know. And I mean, her granddaughter is literally a Keyblade wielder and a Princess of Heart. However, if it turns out that they have never passed down the truth about the time before Union, then that means Kairi's grandmother must be from that time, or have descended from someone from that time, and the only people that qualify are the Foretellers or the Dandelions, and last I checked, all the Foretellers were gone until they were summoned back by Luxu, so I doubt they had the time to make any kids, and I'm pretty sure all the Union leaders are going to end up in various places with no memory of what's happened, except maybe Brain and Ephema, but Brain is already tied to Eraqus, and I see no connection between Ephema and Kairi, and for all we know, Ephema might perish in some way, so the only person from that time left who really qualifies is the exact person who most perfectly matches up with her, and that's of course Master Ava. Like the other foretellers, we know Ava fought in the Badlands in the Keyblade War. We know she fulfilled her role because the entire Kingdom Hearts universe as we know it only exists because she succeeded in sending the Dandelions to another world, and because Luxu literally says she fulfilled her role. And it's kind of funny because the story that Kairi's grandmother is always telling is literally about the task that Ava was given. And think about this as well, Kairi's grandmother is in Radiant Garden, and if you think about it, almost everyone from Union seems to end up here. Subject X, who is almost certainly Scold, ends up there. Lorim and Elrena are recruited by Zaladin and Xigbar, so they likely ended up there too, and people whose worlds are destroyed usually do end up there. And Radiant Garden is considered the capital of light, and it's the original homeworld of Kairi, who is a princess of light, and Ava's entire role was to preserve the light, to keep it living. Would it really be so crazy she'd be living in the place that's representative of the light? And in a way, her telling Kairi this story over and over about children keeping the light alive is in a sense keeping the light alive. The way she tells Kairi that the light will always be there, the way she makes sure that she understands, that doesn't seem like she's just simply telling her a story. It seems like she's making sure she remembers to keep the light inside herself alive. Kairi is literally a child of pure light, a princess of heart. So even if Ava isn't her actual grandmother, I really wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't her guardian in some way or something. Now, one thing I do think is odd is that Kairi lost her memories of Radiant Garden until Melody of Memory, but in Kingdom Hearts 1, she remembers her grandmother telling her stories. That could just be an inconsistency in the narrative, or perhaps there's some other reason for it, but I thought I'd point it out. But at the end of the day, Ava is missing, and there's no real understanding of where she even is. Even the other foretellers don't know why she's not with them. But Ava didn't just complete her role, she tried to go against the Master of Masters' plan to see if she could change the future. So why would she continue to follow the Master's plan? Now, Luxu says that Ava didn't make it, so he also seems to have been expecting her, but he also seems to not be too surprised that she didn't turn up, and I'm guessing that's likely because of their clash back in Daybreak Town, because he knows that Ava is indeed the traitor. Now I know some people think there's no traitor, or that all the foretellers are the traitor, or even somehow that Sora is the traitor, but if it's true that there is one traitor, it has to be Ava, because the entire description of the traitor literally fits her. Whilst Gula is telling the player and Scold about the passage about the traitor, Ava is confronting Lushu, and literally every passage he says is reflected in Ava's actions. He reads the passage that says that the traitor will misread the truth, and Ava misunderstands what Lushu tells her. Lushu tells her the truth, that the master wants their world to end and it's his plan, and Ava misreads that by thinking he's lying. There's a line that says that the traitor will be unable to permit disharmony and will be disappointed by fate and lose sight of true strength. Now I think that this is referring to the fact that Ava is unable to believe what Lushu is telling her and is disappointed with this possibly being the truth, aka fate. And her losing sight of true strength, I just think that means that she isn't strong enough to accept reality, and instead she gives into her impulses. There's also the line about venturing forth in secrecy, and literally the only character who is somewhere out there hiding out by their own volition is Ava. She obviously isn't dead, and yet we have no idea where she is or what she's doing. We know where the other foretellers are, Lushu summoned them. We know where Sora is, he's an unreality. So who else has ventured forth in secret that could possibly be the traitor? It was only when Ava sought out Lushu and struck him that the bell tolled and the war literally began. And the passage says that with one strike, the bell shall toll and the final battle will begin. Ava does do one strike against Lushu, and then the bell does toll, and then the final battle, Daybreak Town, does begin. Lushu says in the epilogue that he told Ava clear as day what he had to do, and she is the only foreteller who actually learnt the truth. And that's why she attacked him, because she misread the truth and was unable to permit disharmony and was disappointed by fate, resulting in her attacking him, and ironically, that's what caused the war. If she had just composed herself or had true strength, as the passage says, she wouldn't have done that, and the war wouldn't have happened. But she already disobeyed the master before she even went for Lushu by giving Brain the Book of Prophecies. I imagine the Master of Masters knew she'd do that, and he probably accounted for that to play right into his plans. I mean, obviously he knows the foretellers very well, and I think he knew Ava, being as kind and loving as she was, wouldn't want the war to happen, and in her attempt to stop it, she'd actually start it. The Master of Masters wrote the Book of Prophecies, and he wants it to happen. That's his will, and his followers are supposed to follow his will. So a traitor, from his perspective, would be anyone who went against his will, and whilst all of them in some way did that, Ava is the one who triggered the war when she did it, and she never answered Lushu's summons in the epilogue. Now, I'd imagine Ava understood that by fighting Lushu, by causing the clash that triggers the war, she basically played right into the master's plans. If you face her in the Keyblade graveyard back in Kingdom Hearts Key, she even says that there are secrets no one should know, which I believe is her regretting the fact that she learnt the truth from Lushu about the master's intentions. She learnt the secrets, if you will, and because of that, she accidentally began the war. So she probably, by that point, realised what exactly she'd done. But by then it was too late. She'd already started the war, and before that, she'd already set up the Dandelions, which is why she tells the player to go and join the Dandelions, because she basically knows it's already all over. See, to her, the world is ending. All she knows is about to be destroyed. The faith that she'd placed in the man she called Master was completely shattered by this point. The very prophecy that she tried so hard to subvert, the very war she desperately wanted to prevent, all of it came to be because she tried to stop it. How could she, after all that, still be loyal to the master that she felt had betrayed her? Of course she's going to be considered a traitor, but that doesn't mean she's a bad person. It just means that she disagreed with the master's plan, and we can all see that the master is likely going to be the next main antagonist. So from the perspective of the protagonist, Ava is the only good foreteller. And I don't know about you, but Kairi's grandma seems like a pretty nice old lady to me. I just think that when she saw the war did indeed happen, but then so did everything else that was prophesized, maybe she realized that she'd been played. And so after the war she decided, you know what, I'm done with the games, and she's decided that she's going to live out her life in the new reality that she helped to create. Perhaps she just sought some sort of peace after the war. Maybe she could atone for all of the suffering that she inadvertently caused. And again, her role was to preserve the light, to usher in this new world. And what better way for her to continue that than to keep the light alive in the heart of a princess of heart, a child of pure light, a child that may very well be part of her own lineage. But anyway, that's all I've got to say for this particular theory video. Let me know in the comments what you believe, okay? Do you think that Kairi's grandmother has got any significance or not? Do you think Ava is connected to her or not? Do you think that it's someone else? Do you think it's nobody? Do you think that it's all meaningless? Let me know in the comments below what you think. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like. And I do have more theories on the way. They're not all going to be as long as this one. There's going to be quite a few of them that are going to be quite interesting though, so be sure to be on the lookout for them. I'm going to be talking about different things such as how Xehanort knows about unreality, as well as some time travel things that I've been thinking about. And we're going to take a little bit of a look at the Timeless River. So if you want to see those videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're notified when those videos drop. But anyway guys, I appreciate you very much for listening for this entire video. My name is NextGenNovelist, and that's all I've got to say, and I'm out. Peace.